Did you bring it?
Where's the Shadow Broker? Where's Fist?
They'll be here. Where's the evidence?
No way. The deal's off. Fist set me up. I knew I couldn't trust him.
Were you hurt in the fight?
I know how to look after myself. Not that I don't appreciate the help. Who are you?
My name's Shepard. I'm looking for evidence to prove Saren's a traitor.
Then I have a chance to repay you for saving my life. But not here. We need to go somewhere safe.
Fan favorite Tali turns out to be a really important character in the entire series. Initially introduced as an informant with evidence proving Saren's guilt, and not holding a huge story purpose after that in Game 1, she actually turns out to be a vital cog in the rest of the trilogy. We want to take this time to go through her backstory, lore, and official appearances, and then add some of our own speculation into the mix. Spoilers ahead, but you probably already knew that, so let's get straight into it.
So Tali Zora Naraya is a Quarian and a member of Commander Shepard's squad. She is the daughter of Rael Zora, a member of the Quarian Admiralty Board. Though she's young, Tali is a mechanical genius. In 2183, while she's on a pilgrimage, which is the rite of passage to prove her worth and bring something of value back to her people aboard the migrant fleet. In 2185, having completed her pilgrimage, Tali has been entrusted with leading an important mission for the Admiralty Board. And then in 2186, during the Reaper War, Tali even gets promoted to the rank of Admiral if she survives and doesn't get exiled.
Yep. So I guess in her first appearance, we have Mass Effect Homeworlds.
It's chronologically.
Yeah. So first chronological appearance, Mass Effect Homeworlds. Tali sets off on her pilgrimage aboard the vessel Honorata, crewed by Kina Bryce. Not sure how to pronounce that one. Just Kina. Yep.
That's fine.
She plans to begin her pilgrimage at Ilium, but en route through the Crescent Nebula, the Honorata detects a Geth presence on an unidentified ice world. Tali and Kina land to investigate and manage to disable a Geth unit and successfully extract its memory core, which contains a recording of two individuals discussing an attack on the human colony of Eden Prime and the coming of the Reapers. Fearing that the rest of the galaxy may be in danger, Tali convinces Kina that they should turn over the recording to the local authorities on Ilium. At that moment, the Turian mercenary Jacobus and his team on the planet under Saren Arterius' orders to find Prothean technology attack them.
So they flee to the Honorata. They flee back to the Honorata and then set a course for Ilium. Once there, Ilium's docking officials, prejudiced against Quarians, refuse to allow the Honorata to land for several hours. This gives the Turian enough time to land on Ilium first and plan an ambush. When the Honorata finally lands, Tali and the crew immediately come under fire, and the Honorata's other crew member is killed. Doesn't even get a name, wow. Unable to return to their ship, Tali and Kina stow away on a transport ship bound for the Citadel, where they hope to give the Geth recording to the Citadel Council. The transport's crew discover the stowaways, but the captain decides to turn them over to CSEC instead of killing them.
They try to explain to Chelik, who I suppose was the
character in the CSEC.
Yep. That they have important information for the council, but he ignores them and warns them to leave the station in the next day. After learning from Avina, racist. After learning from Avina that there is a 7-month wait for an audience with the council, they are spotted by Jacobus, who chases them across the Citadel.
Mercenaries are just let onto the Citadel apparently, but Quarians
mercenaries are just absolutely just allowed to enter, but Quarians no. So there you go. So Tali is shot in her side during the chase, but Kina is mortally wounded. Arriving in an incinerator deep inside the Citadel, Kina can no longer keep up with Tali and dies. Tali leaves her friend and sets up a trap of her own for Jacobus. When the Turian enters the incinerator, she seals the doors behind him and activates it, burning him alive, which is actually badass. That is absolutely insane.
If we'd have known about Tali when recruiting, Paragon Shepard definitely would not have recruited her. After arriving at the clinic, Tali is treated by a doctor who we believe is Dr. Chloe Michelle, also from the first Tech games, to whom she tells the story of her journey and the information she obtained from the Geth, thereby putting the doctor right in harm's way as well, of course. Volos mentions that he's an information broker and he can contact the Shadow Broker to ensure that Tali's information can reach the right people. He encourages her to trust him and directs her to a bar where she can hide out. Tali agrees and asks where to go.
So her next chronological appearance is obviously in the first Mass Effect game. So obviously the section we just went through, Mass Effect Homeworlds, is obviously pre-Mass Effect 1 and is sort of setting up for the first game. In Mass Effect 1, she told Dr. Chloe Michelle she wanted to trade her information to the Shadow Broker in exchange for a hiding place, but she was double-crossed by Fist, who was working for Saren. She was expecting to meet the Shadow Broker in person, but obviously she ended up meeting a messenger with a group of assassins instead. Tali threw a tech proximity mine to defend herself and was aided by the timely arrival of Commander Shepard's team. To repay the commander for saving her life, Tali presents the proof that Ambassador Udina and Captain Anderson needed to get Saren's Spectre status revoked. So actually kind of perfect timing for her in two senses, because obviously her life was then saved, and she also found the perfect person to present the information to. Tali's data also provides the first mention of the ancient machine race called the Reapers, who hunted the Protheans to extinction, and also the mysterious Conduit. Wanting to help fight the Geth and prove herself, Tali then joins Shepard's team for the rest of the game, and as we've mentioned in some of our previous videos, she's also one of two squad mates to join Shepard in all three games.
Yep, so Tali spends her time in the Normandy's engine room. Engineer Adams is very impressed by her knowledge, wishing his crew were half as smart as Tali. They often work together to disassemble any abandoned tech, such as old orbital probes that the Normandy's survey missions discover. Shepard can chat to Tali about her fascination of Starship technology and the Normandy's unique design, especially the enormous drive core. Tali talks about life as a Quarian nomad, her pilgrimage, and the ramshackle 300-year-old vessels in the Quarian migrant fleet. Her mother died 5 years ago due to an airborne virus, and although Tali is sad about this loss, such deaths are an unfortunate fact of life aboard the flotilla. She also reveals that her father is the head of the Admiralty Board, the highest authority of the Quarian people, meaning everyone has high hopes for Tali's pilgrimage.
Tali also offers some insight into the Geth, why the Quarians originally created them, how they rebelled, and how the neural networks function. She explains that her people struck first to try and stop the Geth before the war started, but underestimated how far the Geth had developed. Shepard can actually debate this with her, pointing out that the Quarians basically attempted genocide against another sentient species. At first, Tali is very excited about being aboard the Alliance's most advanced vessel, but she begins to have problems. She can't sleep because she's not used to a ship that runs so quietly, because as we sort of talked about, Quarian ships, to a Quarian, a quiet ship means a dead engine or worse, a malfunctioning air filter. So obviously, since their ships are older, they're a lot more noisy, and that's kind of what they have grown used to, which is a cool little sort of tidbit. She also says that compared to the crowded conditions of the migrant fleet, the Normandy feels disturbingly empty. She said it's like half the crew is missing. She manages to adjust over time and becomes much more cheerful eventually. Tali enjoys visiting the crowded, noisy wards on the Citadel because they feel a lot more like home, and she particularly likes the music in Flux, hoping to take a copy back to the flotilla.
Or whatever, however it goes.
Yeah.
If Shepard treats Tali with respect, she is very grateful, explaining that her people are usually treated like second-class citizens. On Vermeer at the Solarian camp, Tali is nervous about the upcoming assault on the base, but promises she will fight with fire for Shepard's sake. After the mutiny, when Shepard steals the Normandy and heads to Ilos, Tali enjoys the adventure of it all, but wonders what the Council would do if the Citadel fleet caught up with them. Shepard is sure Tali's father would pull strings to keep his little girl out of jail, but Tali isn't convinced. Stealing ships is a capital offence amongst the Quarians, stating that he'd probably want to execute us himself. If Tali goes with Shepard to Ilos, she finds the planet eerie and feels as if they are trespassing there. She claims the Quarians once tried to find Ilos as a new potential homeworld, but they never expected it to feel so unwelcome. After speaking to Vigil, Tali is saddened by what happened to the Protheans. Like her people, the Protheans tried to fight back against the machines, but eventually lost everything.
So in terms of a personal assignment, if Shepard chooses to partake in an Alliance campaign to drive the Geth away from the Armstrong Nebula, a cache of data may be found in a terminal at the main Geth base on Solcrum, detailing the evolution of the Geth since their split with the Quarians. Back aboard the Normandy, Tali asks for a copy of that data if she is spoken to, though it is heavily encrypted and might take years to decipher. It is actually a perfect gift for her pilgrimage. Shepard can agree to her request or refuse, as it is technically classified Alliance data after all, and official appeals for access can be taken down the line. If Tali receives a copy of the data, she is very grateful, as it will enable her to return to her people once the mission with Shepard is over, and she reiterates her pledge that she will still continue to help Shepard stop Saren. If Shepard refuses to give the data to Tali, Tali isn't sanguine at the prospect of the Alliance actually releasing the files to the migrant fleet. She pouts at Shepard, putting humanity's interests at the expense of the Quarians, and she opts to leave the crew as soon as the mission is over in order to find something of equal value and to complete her pilgrimage on her own. So I think canonically Shepard probably gives it to her, as this is what leads to her being able to return and ultimately return to the Quarians and move up in the ranks.
Yep, which leads nicely into Mass Effect 2. So after the attack on the SSV Normandy and having completed her pilgrimage, Tali joined the crew of the Nema and became a respected figure in the migrant fleet, earning the title Tali Zora Vas Nema. She also gained a new environmental suit, reflecting her status as a mature adult Quarian. In 2185, she led a mission to the human colony of Freedom's Progress, searching for a missing Quarian named Vitor Nara, who had been helping the colonists as part of his pilgrimage. Tali and her team arrived to find Freedom's Progress eerily deserted, but with the security mechs activated. Tali guesses Vitor is responsible for turning the mechs on. During the search for Vitor, Tali runs into Commander Shepard, who arrived to investigate the disappearances with Jacob Taylor and Miranda Lawson, and whom she had believed was long dead during the Normandy's destruction.
Tali is initially thrilled to find Shepard alive, but is surprised and disappointed to see the commander working with Cerberus, which is honestly a fair reaction. Due to the organization's anti-alien reputation and recent acts of sabotage against the flotilla.
Mass Effect Ascension novel,
Tali convinces herself that Shepard is undercover and hopefully working to bring Cerberus down. If Shepard gave Tali the data from the rogue Geth 2 years previously, then Shepard could actually ask Tali if the Geth data helped her complete her pilgrimage, to which Tali said that it did, which convinces her that even though the commander now works for Cerberus, it's still the same Shepard. After finding Vitor and evidence that the collectors are behind the colony's disappearance, Shepard decides whether to let Tali return the traumatized Quarian back to the flotilla, or hand him over to Cerberus for further interrogation. And Tali's response is determined by this decision. Regardless of Shepard's choice, though, they part ways as Tali returns to the flotilla because she has an important mission in Geth-controlled space that she couldn't discuss.
So the mission turns out to be on the planet Haestrom, which is also in the Perseus Veil, to gather data on the planet's prematurely dying sun. As Haestrom is deep in Geth territory, Tali travels with a contingent of Quarian Marines, including Kalriga, for protection. Unfortunately, a Geth patrol ship sights the Quarians and begins dropping troops, and the Quarian Marines are killed, and Tali is trapped inside a building with the data she has gathered. Fortunately, she is contacted by Shepard, who came to Haestrom in the hope of recruiting her. After fighting their way through the Geth, meeting Kalriga and destroying a powerful Geth Colossus, Shepard's team manages to rescue Tali, who agrees to join Shepard's cause. She explains that the data she has gathered on Haestrom's sun proves it is dying too quickly, possibly, and it's elaborated later, due to dark energy affecting the mass of the star. Despondent over the deaths of her friends during the mission, Tali angrily hopes that the Admiralty Board will put this information to good use and make it worth such a terrible cost.
So aboard the Normandy SR2, Jacob welcomes Tali warmly, but she dismisses him, reiterating her skepticism towards Cerberus' intentions, and she makes it clear that she is joining the mission for Shepard's sake and not for Cerberus's. If Shepard dealt with Cerberus's experiments back in 2183, Tali reminds the commander that Cerberus thought that enslaving Thorian creepers and Rachni was a good idea. In parting, Tali is even more disturbed to hear that the new Normandy has an AI as well, which again goes back to sort of her race's history, and again just sort of shows that Tali is one of the more, smart characters here. She's trying to sort of be a voice of reason for Shepard, as she trusts him and just doesn't trust Cerberus or AI.
Leading us on to Tali's loyalty mission from Mass Effect 2, which is absolutely one of my probably top 3 loyalty missions overall, in terms of personal preference. After a little bit of time aboard the Normandy again, Tali received a disturbing message from home. She informed Shepard that the Admiralty Board has charged her with treason. Tali asks to be taken to the flotilla to discover what the charges are and plead her innocence. During the events of the mission, it is revealed that the Admiralty Board has decided to change Tali's title to Tali Zora Bas Normandy. Even after her loyalty mission is completed, she will keep this title regardless of the outcome. After both Tali and Legion's loyalty missions are completed, a conflict arises between each other when Tali catches Legion scanning her Omni tool for information on the flotilla to be sent back to the Geth. Legion maintains that it is merely warning the Geth of the threat they face from the Quarians' tests and their plans to attack the Geth. Unless Shepard intervenes impartially, the commander will lose one of their loyalties. If the conflict is resolved without Shepard siding with Tali or Legion, Tali thanks Legion for agreeing not to transmit the data back to the Geth and offers non-classified information on the flotilla to Legion instead. If Shepard sides with Legion, the commander loses Tali's loyalty, but it can be regained in a later conversation. There you go. Also, the loyalty mission, basically you find out that Tali's father has actually been experimenting on Geth and technically did commit treason against the flotilla. But basically she pleads with you not to tell them, to give them this evidence, because she would rather be exiled than have her father's name be basically smeared with treason. It's really cool, and if you don't have enough Paragon or Renegade, like, yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah, definitely. I think actually on 2 of my 3 playthroughs, I've sort of failed to have the best outcome in this mission. It's quite a high requirement, so definitely maybe leave this one for a little bit later when you might be more prepared to make the choice, because it is quite a difficult one, honestly. One of the best in the series. So I guess the next major section is in terms of romance. Tali is a potential romance option for a male Shepard. When Tali first joins the crew of the Normandy, Yeoman Kelly Chambers informs Shepard that Tali may wish to be more than just good friends and describes the noticeable signals in her body language. Kasumi Goto also notices the signs telling Shepard that he's all she talks about and that he'd better be good to her. After completing her loyalty mission, Tali takes on a small fever and tells Shepard what life inside her suit is like. She says that Quarians are in their suits their whole lives and that the most intimate thing they can do with another Quarian is link their environmental suits.
So Shepard then says, "Is that a fever under your suit, or are you just pleased to see me?" We'll bang, okay?
A real stud.
Yeah.
And it can be dangerous, as it is considered their most sacred form of trust. Tali accidentally lets slip that she only trusts Shepard that much, and she initially acts nervous, stumbling over her words, and can even can even be accused by Shepard of blushing, though she blames it on her fever.
Yeah, so eventually she confirms the yeoman's thoughts, revealing that since the start of their adventures together fighting Saren, she had developed feelings for Shepard. Until this point, however, Tali was afraid to act on her feelings because she doubted that he could see who she truly was under her mask. She is happily surprised when Shepard proves her wrong by telling her how he feels the same way about her. Tali later apologizes for putting him on the spot, saying she was unprofessional and selfish. She tells Shepard that he deserves to be happy with someone and doubts that she can do that for him. But Shepard says that he doesn't want to be with anyone else, he wants to be with Tali, and he'll do everything he can to make it work.
So overjoyed to hear this, Tali tells Shepard that she wants this relationship to be real, that she must feel skin against hers, so obviously feel Shepard's skin, I guess. Unfortunately, Quarian's weak immune system and dextro amino acid chirality means physical acts of affection are actually dangerous, if not deadly. She thus asks that Shepard give her some time until she can adequately make herself ready. Shepard can... yeah, for Shepard. Shepard can also get intimate advice from Morden Solas, who will suggest that Shepard self-sterilize, citing oral contact as especially dangerous, and forwards information packets regarding Quarian physiology and positions comfortable for both species to Shepard's room.
I'm guessing Doggy wasn't top of that list.
Probably not. Shortly before the Normandy's entry into the Omega-4 relay, Tali nervously goes to Shepard's room, saying that she has taken several antibiotics and herbal supplements to bolster her immune system. Speaking non-stop, a defensive mechanism. She becomes visibly nervous about removing her biosuit and having her first intimate experience. Shepard eases her worries and proceeds to remove her mask.
It's alright, babe. Don't worry.
He doesn't care if it's dangerous. Shepard is he's a sex fiend.
Doesn't even know what she looks like. Imagine taking off the mask and she goes, "Ooh, I didn't know you look like that. I gotta go."
Viewing her face unobstructed for the first time, her fears gone, Tali pounces on Shepard and passionately kisses him as the scene fades to black. Furthermore, if Tali survives the suicide mission, she informs Shepard that although she is running a fever and has a nasty cough, and her sinuses are filled with something she can't even describe, it was totally worth it.
I can describe it. It's got.
Yeah, I'm sure Shepard can too.
Yeah, it's obviously something the Shepard knows a lot about. Okay, if she comes with you on Lair of the Shadow Broker as well, then, following the Lair of Shadow Broker DLC, Shepard can bring Liara aboard the Normandy to catch up after the completion. She will ask Shepard what he's fighting for and whether it is a chance to give Tali a new homeworld. If Shepard answers in the positive, he claims it is because Tali is important to him. In reply, Liara reveals that Tali has been awestruck ever since she joined him 2 years ago, to which Shepard wishes Liara could have mentioned it to him at the time. This is because, by the way, there's only 2 romance options in first game. By the way, if you take you've only got 2 options. If Shepard had romanced Liara in 2083 and later chose to just remain friends, Liara will instead say that though she was naive, she had a vested interest in not adding any more competition to that question. Before returning to the Shadow Broker's ship, Liara says that she hopes the 2 of them will find happiness together.
Yeah, a little bit jealous there. Shepard's a bit too much of a stud, causing some trouble with the female members of his crew.
Looks like Shiala's not the only green Asari, if you get what I mean.
So moving on to the Mass Effect 3 appearance now. If she survived the suicide mission, Tali returns to the Quarian fleet following Shepard's return to the Alliance. Due to her expertise with the Geth, the Admiralty Board requests Tali's assistance in their campaign to retake Rannoch. If Tali was not previously exiled from the fleet, the Admiralty Board appoints her as Admiral in place of her father. Otherwise, Tali lends her aid in secret. Tali reunites with Shepard when the Normandy joins the Quarians in the war against the Geth. In the Normandy's conference room, they exchange introductory pleasantries after meeting with the admirals. If Shepard inquires why she never called earlier, Tali replies that she's aware of the commander's own problems back on Earth. Though if Shepard only cares about obtaining the Quarian fleet, Tali replies more apprehensively but assures the commander they'll get what they want.
Shepard also voices the assumption that she'd support the invasion, though if Tali interacted with Legion, she began thinking there may be a chance for peace. Otherwise, she says she didn't think the Quarians were strong enough to take on the Geth. Shepard presses the issue. If Tali is an admiral, she says public disagreement among the higher-ups would divide the fleet. If she is the dirty little secret, she still feels she owes her people. With the chat over, Tali leaves with a hint for catching up in private. Bet she does. As she says, she needs to keep things strictly business in front of the admirals, but then she needs to pounce on Shepard, apparently. Otherwise, while the Geth Quarian War is ongoing, she takes up residence in the Normandy's war room along with Admiral Run.
If Shepard permits the private talk in the captain's cabin, Tali immediately, which he would for sure. Tali immediately voices the doubts she couldn't openly express. She feels the pressure of having 17 million lives counting on her decisions. If Shepard comforts her by urging acceptance of the fact that people will die, Tali is reminded by something her father said: commanders mourn losses, not people. Putting people at a distance was a requisite for making the big decisions, and Tali thinks that she can't do that. If Tali is just friends with Shepard and at this point, and the commander assures her she's doing everything she can, she feels regret at helping her father's research on the Geth, as the tech derived from his work made the invasion too good to pass up. If the evidence against Tali's father was turned over to the Admiralty Board, she apologizes to Shepard and admits that they were right.
Had she been exiled, though, she wouldn't have been able to speak out against lunatics like Zen. If Tali was exiled, however, she muses instead that maybe exile was preferable, as that way she won't expect people to listen to her. If Tali became admiral, she takes solace in the fact that she can now push back against the worst ideas and reveals she accepted the position because of Shepard. Tali asked herself what the commander would do and interpreted it as taking the chance to make things better. Tali serves as the Geth software expert in the team that infiltrates the Geth dreadnought and participates in the mission to deactivate transmission of the Reaper signal controlling the Geth. Shortly before storming the Reaper base housing the signal on Rannoch, she marvels at the experience of setting foot on the home of her ancestors, taking in the sweeping vistas of the place. Tali claims a spot of land, hopeful that she'll have a home at the conclusion of the war. With the Quarians having been nomads for centuries, Shepard asks if they can go back to living in one place. Tali replies that they've gotten used to carrying their homes with them. Shepard bends down, picks a rock, and hands it over to Tali in a symbolic gesture, who remarks that it's a start.
Following the destruction of the Reaper on Rannoch, the Geth are weakened and Admiral Hangarel launches a full strike. The Geth unit Shepard and Tali rescued from the Geth dreadnought, either Legion itself or a Geth BI constructed in its likeness, attempts to upload the Reaper code to augment all intelligences of the Geth collective, an act that would restore the Geth to full strength, catching the Quarian fleet unaware and leading to their destruction. If Shepard allows the Geth to be upgraded, Tali watches in horror as she witnesses the entirety of the migrant fleet crash and burn up in Rannoch's atmosphere. Filled with despair, she removes her mask, declares "I'm sorry," and commits suicide by throwing herself off the cliff. Shepard tries desperately to catch her, but to no avail. If Shepard stops the Geth unit from uploading the code, it becomes hostile and Tali is forced to stab it with her boot knife to save Shepard. If Legion is alive and Shepard convinces the Quarians to halt their attack, peace is achieved between the Quarians and the Geth, and Tali watches sadly as Legion sacrifices itself to grant autonomy to all Geth, but not before confirming that the answer to Legion's question, whether or not the Geth has souls, was yes.
So Shepard chose to side with the Quarians over the Geth. Instead of seeing hope, the victory reminds Tali of the losses she incurred, her team on Haystrom, her father, and even Legion if the platform was around. She starts thinking she isn't ready to settle down yet. In all cases where she survives the aftermath, Tali decides to rejoin the Normandy, knowing that she'd be fighting for her homeworld. Before leaving Rannoch, she takes off her mask to see the sunset.
While on the Citadel, Tali coordinates her people's activities with the Turians. Shepard can find her on the Presidium Commons, conversing with a functionary, either a diplomat or a clerk, depending on the time. Before the battle for Rannoch, Tali argues with a diplomat for medical supplies, but the Turian insists that they have nothing to spare. Tali points out that the Quarians are willing to pay and that thousands will die without the meds, but the Turian counters that with the ongoing war and the recent failed coup, the Turians themselves don't have much supplies to go around. Shepard could step in and reason with either party, but the end result is the same: no meds end up going to the Quarians.
Tali is grateful for the token support if Shepard does side with her, or grudgingly concedes the Turian's point and tells the commander she'll talk later if otherwise. If she survived the battle for Rannoch, Tali becomes the Quarian's ambassador on the Citadel. Shepard finds her conversing with a clerk, whom Tali identifies as the one who denied her asylum when she acquired evidence of Saren's treachery. The Turian doesn't recognize her, and Tali decides not to remind him, realizing that war is no time for petty grudges.
During the after-mission lulls, Tali often banters with Garrus, Edie, and Chief Engineer Adams. She and Garrus have several conversations regarding their earlier missions with Shepard. Tali also talks with Edie regarding Reaper conversion of different races into husks, deliberating on why they haven't started converting the Quarians. Edie assures her that it is not that Reapers don't consider them useful, rather they have not encountered Tali's race in large numbers. When Tali is still not convinced, Edie tells her that the Normandy has benefited greatly from her expertise and that the Quarians are a very intelligent race with an astonishing knack for engineering and technology. Tali is mollified at that and thanks Edie for her assistance to the Normandy.
So just on that point, by the way, this is one of the things about Mass Effect 3 that in another video we sort of briefly mentioned, but it's like, so Tali there is like upset that like, why did the Reapers attack my people and to convert my people into husks? It's like, you're upset at that? Like, it's a very woke ideology, isn't it? Anyway, just wanted to say that it's a bit silly, and I wouldn't think Tali would say that, to be honest. I don't see that as a canon conversation, but there you go.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, Edie is trying to assure Tali, but I don't think anybody would be upset that the Reapers aren't turning your people into like husks and slaves.
I mean, they're also not doing that to the Volus, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, there's a lot of races that they're not going for. They're going for the main big boy races.
The Solarians or the Krogans either. It's really just Turians, humans, Asari, and Rachni, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, I think it really is just going for the I think there's an audio log file or some sort of discussion. I'm not sure where it comes up, but it's Harbinger talking about which races are useful to him, and it's not necessarily him deciding which races are the strongest. It's just he's picking the races that are the most useful to be indoctrinated and ultimately turned into husks. And in this case, yeah, humans and Turians are definitely the top two, and then Asari are like extremely powerful for fighting purposes. So of course the Reapers want to use them in that regard. So that's why those are the ones that are focused on. And then obviously the Rachni, because they can be bred basically for war. So as if you get one queen, you've got the whole hive basically. So that's why the Reapers picked them specifically. It's not like the Reapers looked at Quarians and just decided, nah, not going to do that, not enough of a benefit. Like, they would if they needed to, but they just don't. So yeah, I don't know. Well, it's a weird thing for
It's just what I mean. It's that attitude of today, which is like looking for victim status even without actually being a victim. That's I guess what it is. Anyway, so on another occasion, Tali is discussing a new idea that she came up with, which was using the Normandy's weapon sinks to increase the time duration of stealth mode, basing it on Quarian ship practices during drive core discharge. Engineers Adams, Donnelly and Daniels tried to convince her it is not a good idea, as the Normandy is a state-of-the-art vessel which might be sensitive to tampering. However, owing to their good faith in Tali, they let her proceed, only to regret it since Tali's experiment causes a major power surge and damage to some systems. Tali sighs in defeat and starts on repairs.
After the disastrous mission on Thessia, Tali goes to the Memorial Wall, conversing with either Garrus or Samantha Trainer if the Turian is absent, on the comm about Liara's distress at seeing her homeworld fall if Liara already went straight to her cabin. Tali is desperate to help Liara somehow. She wants to talk to her, but fears that she is not the right person for it at the moment, as she has gained her homeworld as opposed to Liara losing hers. She suggests Garrus or Trainer to console Liara, thinking the shared experience of homeworlds burning might be a start, but both of them advise to give Liara some space, while Trainer additionally points out the Quarian knows the Asari better than she does.
Yep, so when Shepard expresses distress at the direction war is going, the fall of Palaven, Earth, and now Thessia, Tali encourages her, saying the commander was the one who always prevailed against overwhelming odds, and Shepard will always figure things out. She assures Shepard she believes in Shepard no matter how dark it gets. Tali becomes particularly upset after the mission on Horizon. She goes to the port observation deck bar, gets drunk on Turian brandy, and reflects on her encounters with Miranda. Tali reveals to Shepard that although she disliked Miranda, she respected her courage to defy her father and not let him control her life. She laments that unlike Miranda, she has tried to live up to her father her whole life.
If Commander Shepard chooses to activate the Crucible during the battle for Earth, Tali, along with Joker, Cortez, and any surviving squad members can be seen paying their respects to Shepard, placing the commander's name above Anderson's on the memorial wall aboard the Normandy. If Tali is in the squad at the final push towards the conduit, she will be killed by Harbinger if insufficient galactic forces have been mustered. If Tali did not survive the suicide mission, her role is filled by Admiral Darazen Vasmora during the attack on the Geth Dreadnought, and Admiral Shala Ran vs. Tonbay during the final mission on Rannoch. Like Legion, Tali is essential to brokering the peace between the Geth and the Quarians, and having either of them missing forces Shepard to make a choice between saving one of the two species, sacrificing the other. If Shepard chooses to spare the Geth, a Geth Prime will be seen in her place during the final battle on Earth, which is kind of funny.
Just a random Geth Prime. Alright, so there's also obviously some unique stuff that she can do within both the From Ashes DLC and the pretty awesome Citadel DLC. Particularly if she was a kind of romance option, but I want to, I guess, skip straight towards the end and talk about some of the trivia of Tali and then some of our speculation, if you're happy to do so.
Yep, that's fine. Just know that, as with every sort of major character, there are some unique interactions in the two DLCs, so, there's not much point in us going over those specifically. Like, you'll see them as you play the game, so definitely look out for those.
Tali's appearance in Citadel DLC is generally pretty nice anyway, but I think it's from what I've seen, it's even better when she's a romantic option, as with a lot of them. But yeah, she's definitely a lovable character. As much as you try not to, she really, really is. But anyway, let's do some trivia.
Yeah, let's do some trivia.
Tali carries a knife strapped to her boot, but has never been seen using it, except for in one situation where basically if Shepard chooses the side of the Quarians on Rannoch, Tali uses her knife to stab either Legion or the Geth VI in the back. In this scene, and this scene alone, her knife uses the model of a broken phantom sword.
Which is quite interesting. Bit random, but definitely it is, I think, referenced that she has one anyway, so it's not like a complete random pull. But anyways, according to Tali's character key, a limited edition item formerly sold in the BioWare store, Tali stands at 172 centimeters tall, which is roughly 5 foot and 8 inches. This is seemingly reinforced by an official miniature statue also sold in the BioWare store. The figure is approximately 9.25 inches tall, which is on a 1/7 scale, and depicts Tali leaning forward with her knees bent, subtracting a noticeable amount of height compared to if she was standing with a straight posture. Finally, an official statue formerly sold in the BioWare store stands at 19 inches tall at a 1/4 scale, which would be consistent with these other pieces of merchandise if the base/stand part of the figure is at 1 to 2 inches in height, depending on how much height Tali has gained from her shoes.
Yep. So just on that, in the Ascension novel, which is done by Drew Karpyshyn, obviously, it kind of suggests that this would be most likely the average height of a tall Quarian rather than an average, as obviously Quarians is established as generally like kind of shorter, more slight, like humans. So 5'8" is officially the average height of Western, I think, men is 5'9" at the moment. So 5'8" would be quite tall for a female Quarian if that's the case. But this might just be because she's just a tall person.
Yeah, so I guess on to the next sort of bit of trivia, which I definitely thought was quite interesting. Tali's combat drone is nicknamed Chatika Vespaus, I think, a reference to BioWare's Pause? Okay, yeah, a reference to BioWare's Baldur's Gate 2. Chiktika Fastpaws is the raccoon companion of Bayervan, Wild Wanderer, a deity worshipped by Aerie, one of the party members. So when Chatika is summoned, Tali will occasionally cry out, "Go for the optics, Chatika, go for the optics," which is a reference to Baldur's Gate 2 Minsk, who shouts, "Go for the eyes, Boo, go for the eyes," to Boo, which is his like sort of space hamster pet.
Aerie sometimes reacts to commands by saying faster than Chiktika Fastpaws, while Tali may exclaim, "Nothing's faster than Chitika Vaspaws." Tali and Aerie have some other similarities as well, both being the junior non-human female companion with a soft voice and a possible love interest for the main character, and having a support role in combat, which is kind of mostly focusing on spells or powers over, say, weapon damage. Along with Legion, it appears that Tali was actually originally available for recruitment at a much earlier point in Mass Effect 2, or that basically certain missions were intended to be available throughout the game. So there is some mods and saves where these two characters are available as early as the Mordin and Garrus recruitment missions, because they had actually recorded some saved dialogue options too.
Yeah, which is definitely pretty interesting too. So on to the next one. According to Lucas Christiansen, Tali was originally named Talsi Aura, with the intent that Aura would become the familiar one. However, because the name flowed oddly and it was too soft for where BioWare wanted to take the character, it was changed before the game was released, obviously to Tali Zora at the time.
So according to Matt Rhodes, who's obviously the lead artist for Mass Effect, showing Tali's face in Mass Effect 3 was a heavy source of debate. He drew up several different designs for her, including the one close to the final look in the game.
Yep. So Tali's face, as can be seen in a photograph during the events of Mass Effect 3, is an edited portrait of the 2005 Miss England, Hanasa Koistani, apparently. So I guess it was based on an actual real-life model, but obviously changed quite substantially, because I think her skin is quite pale and she has sort of the glowing eyes and that sort of thing as well. So
according to Chris Priestley, Tali was almost not included in Mass Effect 3 as a full squad mate, but Patrick Weeks convinced the team otherwise.
Thank God he did, because Mass Effect 3 was already suffering immensely from a lack of squad mates. So
yes.
Minusing Tali would be horrible. So thank you, Patrick Weeks.
Definitely.
Preston Watamaniuk felt that Tali had to die no matter what if the player sided with the Geth, something that he found personally difficult having to convince the rest of the development team.
Yeah, and I think that why did she have to die is my question there. I never really got the reasoning behind that. So I kind of wondered if Drew Karpyshyn would have also agreed to this, having sort of come up with the characters quite strongly. My feeling is that it just seems like if she had to die, I mean, that would be just an added level of emotion that might not have been necessary. Like, I understand if it's maybe one option that comes through, but yeah, I don't think that she would have had to. I don't see why.
Yeah, no, me neither. Especially in a series that's all about choice as well. Like, having every option eventually lead to her death definitely wouldn't have been a good idea. So it's definitely much better that sort of the way they went with it, where at least there is a way that she could die, but there's also the ways that she won't. So
yeah.
So
a bit of our speculation, I guess. I mean, we've already sort of gone with a few of that as well, but like, we know that they probably started out at least as actually a reference to the Battlestar Galactica story, the Quarians, that is, and then probably mixed some of that Romany, like Persian, Central Asian accents, as mentioned in our Quarians video. I would say that there was also then a reference to probably some of the old school Jews that had like been kicked out of Israel, back in the stories of the Bible and stuff.
100%, yeah.
I think there's probably a lot of that too. Yeah, I mean, and then in that case, then Tali sort of acts as, I guess maybe like maybe a version of Moses almost.
Yeah, sort of. I think there's definitely some real world, like planet Earth history, sort of interlinked with the history of the Quarians, and I think there's some obvious inspiration there, and I think it definitely goes into every sort of aspect of them as a race, but also into Tali as a character. Particularly with, I think, some of the design choices, and also obviously like her accent and things like that, which I guess just goes to make the race sort of more believable as a whole, much more relatable, and definitely we talk about it in our race video, but I think they're supposed to look very much like humans if they weren't constantly wearing their environmental suits, and that sort of, I guess, adds to why Tali is definitely a more relatable character in general.
Yep. So I think also, like mentioned before, like Tali's loyalty mission is easily in my top 3 favorite loyalty missions. It's a really amazing and in-depth mission, and a little bit of combat, but like it's also majority is more like dialogue and sort of implications and story and character building, which is perfect. But I just was thinking, the more I think about it, the more I think that sending Geth parts back to the fleet probably still wouldn't have led to a hearing for exile, because I don't think it counts as treason at all. Not like how the other Quarian that we heard of was tried for treason because actually releasing the security codes essentially to Batarian pirates kind of makes sense. And then is this completely different? And basically there is another exiled Quarian that wasn't for treason, but the exiled Quarian was Golo, who was in the Mass Effect Ascension novel, as mentioned, who was a really cool Quarian character too. And he was exiled for trying to sell Quarians to the collectors. So I don't think sending disassembled and deactivated Geth parts is exactly the same. But I think that they needed to up the stakes dramatically, at least anyway, and to create that situation. And I'm glad they did in terms of the game, but it actually, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I don't know if that's exactly how it would have gone down.
Yeah, so I think the two main things to think about here is one, sending these Geth parts to the fleet is actually exactly what Quarians should be doing. Like their biggest priority, aside from like the protection of the fleet itself, is to send, is to bring useful things to the fleet. And I think Geth parts are absolutely useful to the Quarians. Really, really important. So, it should be seen as a service rather than like a crime. But I think the second thing that I was going to mention is obviously they wanted the crime to not be that severe. BioWare wanted players to sort of look at Tali or Tali's father as sort of like a, actual treasonous characters. I think they're supposed to be, they're obviously meant to be the more Paragon, like the good characters. So, I guess they didn't want to sort of alienate the player base from Tali herself by making it seem like she was doing something really bad. So when you look at it, it doesn't seem that bad. So you don't see Tali as this treasonous character who's done something horrible, like steal ship or sell out their defense or whatever.
Yeah, I agree. So I think it was obviously just a bit of a storytelling exaggeration, just a little bit plot convenience, but as I said, it made for a fantastic loyalty mission, so no real complaints from me.
Yeah, definitely. So do we have any other trivia you want to go over?
Yeah, well, I'd say one more speculation point, and it's more of a question that I'm going to ask you and see what you think. But why do you think it was such a debate about whether to reveal the Quarians' faces?
Yeah, so I think that's pretty interesting, actually, because I think, I guess part of the sort of, mystique, like some of the sort of mystery surrounding their race was the fact that we never really got to see their actual face. And I guess after a while, that sort of became a big staple for them as a whole, especially with Tali, for example, where it's kind of a big deal that Shepard, gets to see it, but like the characters, the players, the people playing the game, don't really get to see it. It leads to us still being, interested as a storytelling device. Like if it does come up as a topic, we're thinking, oh yeah, like maybe we'll finally get to see it. I think honestly they should absolutely just like never reveal in too much detail the full design of the Quarians, because I think it's cool to sort of know, yes, like underneath they're probably the closest to actual humans that we have in the Mass Effect universe, but they're not, we're never going to see them like that because they're always in their environmental suits. I just think that's a really cool concept, and they shouldn't sort of ruin it by revealing them too early anyways.
Yeah, maybe.
What do you think?
So yeah, I think it works better if they maybe are, maybe if they were actual bad guys and more than that, as opposed to just kind of another species. Like for me, I think it makes sense that it would be a rare thing that you would see based in story, but I think at least if you were to romance Tali, for example, from Mass Effect 2, that there's no reason why you as the player, effectively you are Shepard, right? There's no reason why you as the player don't then get to see Tali's face in Mass Effect 2, and it just not becomes such a big deal. But maybe I'm just not as good a storyteller as they are.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it can go both ways, but I guess the problem is if they reveal it in sort of a poor way after waiting too long, which obviously they clearly have by now, any reveal will probably be disappointing, I guess. So if they were going to do it, I think they sort of missed their best opportunity, with the romance option as Shepard. They should have revealed it there, so that at the very least it's like not every player is going to see that, but like if they do go down that path and they manage to romance Tali, then that's kind of part of the reward is getting to see what her actual face looks like. I felt like that would have made the most sense that way.
Well, there's another way to do it as well, which was done actually in Mass Effect Ascension, where basically Grayson was in like a Cerberus warehouse that had been used on Omega, and they had basically been torturing some Quarians to try and get the codes to get into the flotilla. Basically, Grayson then comes across this, what he thought originally was dead, this beaten and bruised and bloody Quarian outside of his enviro suit. So they never actually fully described the appearance in the book, but like a character obviously is directly seen looking at a Quarian without the suit on.
Yeah.
Obviously battered and bruised, but there's nothing saying that we couldn't have come across a situation like this as Shepard investigating something where a Quarian maybe had been killed and ripped out of his enviro suit or something, just to rip the band-aid off almost. And I don't know, but it's okay. Like it's fine. I understand why they did it, and it's kind of still, at least it's still got us talking about it, which is probably what they were really after.
Yeah, I think ultimately it's still an interesting decision to sort of keep it a mystery.
Have you also, on the note of Tali, have you ever romanced Tali in any of your playthroughs?
I have actually, in one of my 3. She was.
How was it?
Choice. I actually would have to say that it's probably BioWare's second major pick. I think I think it's sort of common knowledge at this point that Liara is kind of BioWare's first pick for what Shepard
kind of default.
Yeah. I think Tali is probably the next closest. She has a bunch of extra dialogue just because for the romance option. I also think the fact that she's a squad mate in all 3 games makes it, I guess, additionally special compared to some of the others where you might have to skip them in Mass Effect 2 and sort of either not romance anybody or romance somebody else and then come back to your original pick in the third game.
Nothing wrong with that, mate. Shepard,
yeah.
Oh shit.
I mean, Shepard, yeah, it does seem like what Shepard would do, but yeah, I feel like with Tali, it's like you've got her there for all 3 games, so you don't have to sort of, you don't have to make Shepard into a womanizer or anything like that. Like he's kind of just there from the start to finish.
We never made him into one. He just was one. Okay.
He just was, yeah. That's just him. But yeah, no, I think she's a really good Paragon.
I haven't done it yet.
I would recommend it, actually. I would absolutely recommend it. I think she's probably the second best. Or the second closest pick to Liara in terms of like how much dialogue and extra effort and how much it makes sense is probably her.
I'm keen to do it on my next pick.
100%. I definitely recommend it. Give it a go for sure.
Yeah, I have to say I don't use it often as a squad mate though, because of the whole tech thing. Like, it's just not generally the way I go in a lot of missions that kind of have that need. But like, I think she's a really good character and a really good support character and someone I do like enjoy, obviously going and visiting whilst on Normandy and having a chat with, and as a way of kind of exploring a lesser, I guess, exposed species. She's a really good character, and I'm really glad that they kind of gave her the send-off, if you like, that she deserved in the third one. It was one of the few good parts of the third game.
Yeah, agreed, definitely. I think she's consistently one of the best supporting characters, and I'm honestly one of my favorite characters in the series, so glad to see that she got sort of a good or a deserved amount of effort from BioWare. But yeah, with that, if you don't have any more trivia or anything we want to talk about, I guess we'll end this episode on Tali here. Definitely make sure you check out our Quarian video that should be up before this one, and if you have anything more to mention, definitely let us know in the comments. But with that, yeah, thank you for watching.
See you later, you Bosch tets.
You know you'll miss me.
Well, I won't miss you, you crazy Bosch-tet.
Maintenance to the shuttle bay?